Got the sunrise there, I see.
Dr. Sunrise. Yeah, we got two Dr. Sunrises.
And it's giving us that same energy at this same very moment.
What a beautiful way to start. I'm grateful that this is kind of unplanned, just in the moment, belief and mental health and self-realization and addiction and faith and spiritual faith, scientific faith.
It's the good thoughts, good words, and what we're about to do right now, which is the good deeds. Got the sunrise there, I see.
Dr. Sunrise.
I do house calls.
Yeah, we got two Dr. Sunrises.
That's right.
Maybe even more.
Isn't that amazing? I mean, we're having this conversation and you're looking at one perspective of the sun and I'm looking at the other, but it's the same sun. And it's giving us that same energy at this same very moment. And it's that warmth that we're both sharing.
What a beautiful way to start, because I'm grateful that this is kind of unplanned, just in the moment and unprepared. Although we've arguably been preparing for every one of these talks our whole life. But
yeah,
my favorite thing to talk about is perspective and belief and mental health and self-realization and addiction and faith and spiritual faith, scientific faith. This is my favorite topic, hands down.
So yeah, and what I was going to say, really before we get into the meat of this subject, is that we can talk about this subject in hours, and I know we're talking about trying to condense it for this one podcast, but I would love to have this conversation like a month from now, not that long, but maybe just have another podcast on the same topic and just keep going with a different discussion. Because I really feel that way about this. I feel, and you and I share that type of importance on this topic. So yeah, I look forward to it. You want to start like we led us in the past? I like this habit we're doing, preparing for each one of these, but it really helps you get centered. So
yeah, this is great, man. Talking about the habit, I think I realized right before we got on that there's kind of a modification of our exercise that I really want to do, kind of a little bit of a guided meditation that really, in my goal in self-realization, and that's a loaded phrase, but just getting deeper into the experience of connecting with our true selves, or even just the question of what am I? What am I? And it's so easy to see the material world and stop there. But most of us, even scientists, we know that there's so much more going on than what we can sense. What we can sense is just a small sliver. So yeah, if you don't mind, I'd like to just guide us a little bit and say a few words. Let's enter. We've done it a few times, so let's just quickly enter that space and close our eyes and relax our muscles on our face and sit up straight and just kind of in one moment bring our awareness from our thoughts into our entire body, where we can feel our entire body. all of our senses become more interesting than the thoughts. What we can hear, what we can feel, what we can smell. And just sitting in this moment, I'd like to ask you to just watch the brain, watch the mind, and notice how easily the mind will skip from one thought to another. And rather than actually engaging in the process of thinking, just watch the thoughts. And the speed at which they skip is pretty high for most of us. And in this moment of watching, I want to ask ourselves, what is the thing that's watching the thoughts? And just recognize that there's both the thoughts and the thing watching the thoughts. And with that awareness, I like to ask myself, what is this? Is this the same as the thoughts? No, an awareness, it's a witness. Does the witness feel or think? No, it just witnesses. Is that awareness in you any different than the awareness in me? No, it's the same. Does that witness have any fears or doubts or worries? Is that witness have a personality? Was it any different when we were young? Was it different yesterday? Will it be different tomorrow? Or is there just this pure consciousness, this pure awareness that's the same in all of us? And I find the more time we spend contemplating this and sitting in this space, the the quieter our thoughts become and the slower the skipping from one thought to the other becomes. And I think it's from this place that we realize how lucky we are. Even as scientists, we know that there's so much that we don't know. We don't know exactly what consciousness is. We talk about it, and there's philosophers and psychologists and psychiatrists and spiritual people that talk about this, but we actually don't know exactly what it is. We also don't know exactly how cells know when to become one thing or the other. We don't know why cells will stop growing at a certain point to form the ear, and they don't just keep forming ear cells. There's so much in biology and science that we don't know. And I think that it's from that place of uh not knowing that we recognize what this miracle and this gift really is. And this is, in so many ways, this is what we both strive to share with people, is that this infinite wonder and magic and potential, and the truth that we all can be and do anything, and we're all connected. And yeah, I think I just wanted to start with that simple experience.
It's beautiful, bro. Thank you for that.
And even tuning into what is this desire that we have to want to help. It's very special, it's very sweet, and both scientists and religious people have this, and philosophers. There's so many of us, if not all of us, want to help at least those we love, and some of us we want to help, more, we love more. But that desire to help, I feel like, comes from our own experience with evolution, our own experiences with our beliefs being, with our beliefs evolving, with our perspectives evolving. Um, and we've talked about, returning to this kind of childlike place, but in so many ways, it's going through the shit. It's going through all the fears and failures and insecurities and trauma and limiting beliefs, and growing and evolving past that, and then wanting to share that with others who are stuck or unhappy or depressed or afraid or paranoid. I mean, there's a lot of states that we've all experienced that once we get through that, of course we just want to help, we just want to share. And sometimes the simple truth is that you just have to push the reset button on your biology, on your circadian rhythm, some of these really simple things that we've been talking about really can do the trick. But the reason that I love psychedelics and mystical experiences and spiritual practices that don't involve psychedelics is because they guide us to this place where we realize on our own, beyond the words or the books or the podcasts, that we truly are lucky to be alive, and that life is more magical and more infinite and beautiful. And I think, and it maybe not right away, but I'm excited to talk about the duality of beliefs and how those affect us, how we put things into categories of good, bad, right, wrong, ugly, beautiful, smart, dumb. We've had that conversation so many times, but part of the reprogramming that I help people do for themselves is seeing the beauty and letting go of this hierarchy of looking up or looking down.
It's beautiful thoughts. Yeah, it's the good thoughts, good words, and what we're about to do right now, which is the good deeds. And so it starts there. It does start with these thoughts and understanding where we're coming from, why we're doing this to begin with. And you do have to center yourself towards that reason. And that's what we want to share. And that's a great place to start. So, I'd like to begin our discussion today. I'm Dr. Joey Ancheta. I'm founder of Physio Mental Health Research Center. And today's topic is something that is very personal to me and to Justin, as he so eloquently shared with us, which is faith health. And faith health, falls in line with all the other guideposts, and it does warrant the same level of priority as the others. And I share with the unity of all the guideposts in their eloquence and ability to interact with each other. But faith health, to me, is special in the sense that it's ubiquitous and can be intermingled with all the other guideposts directly and influence it in almost like an undercurrent with every aspect of our life. And I'd like to just kind of start with understanding what we're discussing here, which is, again, biosynchronicity. And what is that? I know I kind of hammer this with each podcast, but it's important to understand that. It is the appreciation and acknowledgement of the presence of something cyclic and rhythmic that we connect with in ourselves and the world around us, and with every living being in this world that we share. And that's, in essence, what biosynchronicity is understanding how to tap into that rhythm. And faith health is the conduit that allows us to do that in a lot of ways. So I'd like to kind of start that as a discussion about faith health is, in my perspective, which is Western medicine, it's the argument of faith as medicine. And when we really talk about medicine and what it's intended to do, which is to obviously help people, assist them in ways to better themselves, whether it's from illness or better themselves from an average to a better version of yourself. And that's what medicine in its essence is supposed to do. Well, the question always comes with faith. Is it in the same category as an antibiotic or a chemotherapy agent? Is it medicine? Is it beneficial in that sense? And I have to say, as a physician, that's been a struggle to try to discover early in my studies and in my education. Everything was based on research, based on a study that proved a point. Is very much scientific, which of course Western medicine is. But when it came to faith, it's hard to decipher that as something tangible. Is it testable? From my own experience, I have plenty of anecdotal evidence of experiences, and I share that in my book about my experiences with patients I've taken care of that had a belief in themselves that improved their symptoms and sometimes was categorized as being a miracle, something that was unexpected, but because of their belief, it became a reality and physical improvement. So is that medicine? It makes me go back to the difference between hope and faith. I know we kind of share this idea and thought, but I say it all the time. What's the difference between hope and faith? Well, hope is the wish that something will be better. Faith is the belief that it will. And that to me resonated so much in my younger years and as I practice medicine, that if you truly have faith, then it's a belief that something will improve. And the strength of the mind and the ability to improve that goes back to the essence of physio-mental health, which proves the point that if you improve the mental state, you improve the physical condition. Well, that's in essence proving faith. Because if your mind is strong enough to believe in something that will physically improve, then that is a leap of faith. That is going beyond the tangible and going through something that's intangible. And that's the difficulty with that discussion, is faith medicine. But again, plenty of anecdotal evidence. There's plenty in the classic research looking at placebo versus not. Sometimes a study showed that the placebo was better because they believed it was better. So is that a point to prove that faith is real? And again, there's evidence that would suggest that. But aside from anecdotal evidence and research laden discoveries similar to that, it's still a difficult idea and concept for a lot of people to understand. So I did want to kind of open that discussion with that. Go ahead.
Yeah, wait, I think there's a good chance that we just lost some people that are so turned off by the word faith. But if they've stuck around long enough to hear you talk about, use the word belief and then talk about the placebo effect, there's something there. And while you're speaking, I just realized, because every scientist knows the power of belief and the placebo effect. It's so well documented. And there's a lot of people on both sides. There's spiritual people that are researching that and talking about it. And then there's scientists that are researching that and talking about it. And what I just downloaded while you were talking, we all know what a belief is. And there's some beliefs that are weak beliefs. There's some beliefs that are strong beliefs. And I think when we're using the word faith, we're not necessarily even categorizing it like that. With belief, a belief is, let's just call a belief a thing. Faith, to me now, as you're speaking, feels like the energy and the power that maybe can't be measured yet, just like we can't measure consciousness, and there's things that we can't see or feel. But faith is the force, is the power and the energy that is behind the belief, right? Because whether it's in the self or God, or it's in science, or it's in quantum physics or whatever it is, we've all experienced that force and that power of a belief that ultimately drives us to purpose and passion. And whether you're a scientist or you're a religious person, we all also know what it feels like to feel kind of empty and dull, and the world to look dull, and to feel purposeless and have a lack of drive and motivation. And now I want to talk about how it really is faith. I've been questioning it this whole time, because I really thought that it should be belief health, that we're talking about limiting beliefs and the health of beliefs. But the truth is, it really is faith. And whether it's in the self, or it's in someone else, or it's in science, or it's in God, or whatever, when that is missing, we could talk a lot about the mental health problems that come in the physical.
Oh, we will. And that's why I'm saying that this is such a broad topic and so many avenues to venture.
Well, thank you. But I just want to thank you, because you just helped me have a breakthrough in what the word faith really.
Well, let's really dive into that, because I think that is important to really define what faith is. To me, it is a belief rather than a wish, which is very important. And as you know, I'm very big on words and their meaning behind it. And to me, that's the definition of it. So let's define that. What is the purpose of faith? if we think evolutionarily, okay, so we're primates coming down from the trees. We're not the highest of the animal food chain. So we're very vulnerable in these situations. So when we ventured down from the trees and started exploring our environments, which, by the way, in another topic, I will say that is the human condition, is always pushing the limits, exploring our environments. That is true human nature of discovery, and that drives our evolution and our science and our technology, is that search to push beyond our environs. But part of that, of seeking out different areas, is the unknown. And that perception of not knowing, I believe, is part of that drive of needing something like faith. So I think from my perspective of understanding human evolution and development, is a sense of reassurance of the unknown. And that's truly a comprehension of what faith is an awareness of an unknown that can also be a reassurance as well, which is what faith does. It's a reassurance that an unknown is there, but a reassurance that there's a reason for it. Where it becomes religion is part of that. But faith in its essence is basically a concept, an idea that the human mind has to create to ponder the question of, if I go around that next hill, I don't know what's there, but I have faith I'll be okay because I have a God, or I have a spirit that will help protect me, or I have a reassurance of others and faith in others that will help me. Right?
Dude, this is powerful, because we have all these apes in the tree, all these monkeys in the trees. Why did the first one venture out? And we're talking about this curiosity, this human nature that wants to explore. But it's really interesting, because a lot of creatures won't take that risk. They'll sense danger, so they won't go. So combining faith with also this natural curiosity and willingness to do something that could potentially be dangerous, because now we're talking about personal development and all these human potential junkies that many of us love and have researched. Transformation comes through discomfort and through fear. It's
yes
this is
yes
really this is good. Yeah.
Well, it is fear, but it's also, again, the human nature of wanting to know. Why does the sun come up? What allows that cyclic nature to occur? That realization that it's there, it's important. But what is it? What is the sun? Well, it's the mother, it's a nurturer. Okay, then that's the persona that's created. I have faith that the sun will rise up every morning because of that. And how religion and all the superstitions came and arose from that need or purpose of understanding something that's unknown. I think for the other way to consider this is, for a millennia, we ascribe that understanding of the unknown through religion and practices like that to make that explanation. In the recent 400 or 500 years, when the scientific models started being created, when you had intellects that would basically question that, we talk about Charles Darwin and others that pose that question to the religious side, says, is that truly how it happened? Is that how man was created? Or was there another way? Because by my scientific observation, I see that evolution by natural selection may be a different alternative of that. Does that mean that he has less faith, or does he have more scientific knowledge? And that was the argument during that era of explanation. Of course, as the scientific model developed and more of that philosophical thought, those arguments, if you can call it that, were definitely juxtaposed against each other at times because of that argument. What's the reality? Is it God created man in 7 days, or was it a millennia of evolution of primates to early Homo sapiens developing onward to our modern version of us. What is that answer? So that's truly, again, where faith and Western thought and the idea of medicine converged, and why it's becoming still a dilemma for us even today. I'll point out this, and this is the part that it's the geek side of me, and please give me some leeway on this, Justin. I love science. In a prior life, I probably would have been a NASA scientist. I really believe that because I'm so fascinated with it. And again, it's part of that intrinsic question of how is that possible? How does the universe? Okay, and so looking at the our center, and when we think about where I live, well, I live on the Earth. Earth circles the solar system. The solar system is centered with our sun. Our sun is one of many stars that circle a galaxy that is, millions and millions of stars and planets that surround it, that circle around the center in this galaxy. Very recently, in the past several decades, we understood that how is it possible that all this mass is being turned like a pinwheel in a center? And there's just not enough calculable mass to do that, because we're talking about gravity here that's actually pulling it. So the discovery was that there's got to be a black hole, something there with immense gravity that's pulling it together, that's able to cause stars to be flung around its middle. So when you consider that, we're talking about something that we can't see, we can't measure, but we know it has to be there to explain what we're seeing in the universe. So again, we're doing the same thing as humans.
Well, to me, the farther we go, the more science sounds like spirituality. It's beautiful.
Yeah. So the scientist will point to that and say, okay, that explains the dark hole in the galaxy. But then explain this: our galaxy, the Milky Way, is part of a cluster of galaxies that is basically aligned together. So they're clustered together. And this is wrapped around this huge cosmic web that circles the universe or migrates through the universe. So the question again is, what's strong enough to move galaxies in that way? If we're talking a black hole and we can understand black holes, well, what is that matter, physical matter that's able to move galaxies? What else is out there? So scientists call that dark matter. And there's studies that show that the visible universe, if you look at all that matter, that encompasses a certain amount, and I'm sorry I don't have the percentages, but it's a lot less than we expect. So there's a lot of matter we don't understand that's out there. That has to be.
I heard it was something like 90% of reality is actually
dark. So the theologian would say, well, that's an explanation, and that's evidence that there is matter, that there is a God of some sort, a being that allows us to explain that. Is he wrong? Is a theologian wrong and the scientist is right? Is dark matter and God intertwined? Is it the same thing? And again, it's the constant urge for the humankind to understand, to explain that. Okay, I see evidence that I can't comprehend with the science and knowledge I have now. Well, then that's faith. Whether we call it dark matter or God, that is faith, because you're believing in something that you don't have a direct explanation yet, but it has to be true. There has to be something there. And that, to me, in essence, is what faith can do. Now, another thing that I'll bring up, and again, forgive me to expound on this, but let's talk about life. Let's talk about the creation of life in its essence. So we have dark matter, and I didn't even talk about dark energy, which is the other aspect of it. Because after the Big Bang and everything exploded, the universe is expanding. Hubbard, understood that when he viewed in his telescope in California and saw that there's a regression. There's a, we talk about red wave frequencies versus blue. If it's red, it's receding. If it's blue, it's speeding up. what's the question? What's the universe doing? Well, what they discovered was that things were leaving the universe faster. Things weren't slowing down; they were actually speeding up. And that's the blowing part of the mind. It's like, as matter expands, you should have a regression where it's pulled back, because that's what gravity does. But there's something that's pulling it apart. So there's something called dark energy that explains that. So we have dark matter, dark energy. And again, that's energy, as we kind of talked about. What is that? I mean, how is that energy able to propel galaxies away from each other? And even faster than the speed of light, which again blows my mind away. If I had a vehicle going to a star at the speed of light, I will never get there, because it's moving further away. It's like a finish line that's moving away from you as you're running towards it. You'll never get there in the speed of light. So that, again, boggles my mind that the universe is so immense, so fast, and expanding in such a huge amount. So dark energy, dark matter, and then the essence of life.
I mean, it's important too. There's two schools right now of physicists, and I mean respected physicists. There's physicists that believe that we are in an infinite expansion, and that what's inevitably going to happen is that eventually all planets and stars will be so far apart from each other that there will be no life anywhere. It's very kind of dark, but it's possible. And then there's other physicists who believe that we're actually on a cycle that's something like 20 billion years, where every 20 billion years the universe expands, and then contracts.
Yeah. They call it the big chill and the big crush. I remember reading on that as well. Yeah.
The fact that there's still is that kind of polarized ideas, even in science, leaves so much room for magic and for the mystery, and all the new age people that have been looking at science from these lenses, that love like the double slit experiment, that like looking into Einstein's idea that particles actually were connected even across large distances, and that quantum physicists now have proven that quarks and quasars actually disappear and reappear. Reality and the double slit experiment, just in and of itself, the idea that a photon can behave like a particle or a wave depending on whether an observer is present or not, is mind-blowing. I mean, without these, this is, I think, and I don't mean to take over and have this in a different.
No, I love talking about it.
I want to come back to this, because what I've realized, and a lot of people throughout time, a lot of philosophers have argued, these are conversations for the wealthy. These are luxury conversations, because people that are struggling with poverty don't have the time or the energy or the education to even ask these questions. But I don't think that that's true. I think that is not fair to the human spirit. We have countless stories of poor people, sick people, uneducated people that do incredible things and come up with incredible new ideas. So when we're talking about how we can help people, it's almost, how can we reset that button of curiosity? How can we because a lot of people, when we're depressed, we're like, I don't really care about all that shit. I don't really care about science. I don't really care about spirituality. I don't really care. So eventually I want to bring it back to.
It is. And I appreciate you saying that, because that is important. And that actually flows into my discussion of how faith health and mental health are very much intertwined. And that's why I say that the guideposts really do interact with each other. But even more intimately is faith health and mental health. A lot of the mental health illnesses, diseases, disorders, whatever term you want to talk about, when mental health is not engaging as it should, we talk about that awareness of yourself and the perception that you have about yourself that causes a lot of these mental health issues. And a question that's posed very sadly with a lot of the patients that I've treated in the past and counseled in the past is that sense of, I have no meaning. My life has no meaning. And that's, again, it's so heart-wrenching as a physician to hear that. And personally, for me, to hear that to someone that I truly want to help.
Yeah.
But when you really dive into that, that's where science can be very helpful in this regard. Because when you look at the science of life, and we talk about dark energy and dark matter. Yeah.
Let's come back to life, because biology is incredible.
Yeah. So when you kind of look at that, it does come down to the basic elements and the basic chemistry. Okay, if we really want to put that down, think about the randomness of this occurrence. Okay, and I'm looking at this from the universal perspective now. Uh, we are truly part of everything in the universe. Our anatomy, our physiology, if you crunch it down to its bare essence, it's elements.
We're all made
Elements
up
that
of
were forged in stars. The
exactly.
generations of stars that needed from the Big Bang onward. We have a third generation star that basically exploded, came together, exploded again, and came together in order to create the larger elements that comprise us. The iron, the selenium, the copper. These fine elements that were only created by being crushed. Okay, so that in itself is incredible. What are the odds of that? Yeah,
Fucking miracle.
Okay. Yeah, and then consider that those elements now had to come together in one location to allow for these chemical reactions to occur that we talk about in nauseum with the development of cellular membranes and the need for a medium like water. How did our Earth?
Even to start with the cosmos, the suns. Most people don't realize that the suns are actually the manufacturers of these elements.
Yes.
The basic molecules were formed from hydrogen coming together, and I don't recall if it was helium next or whatever,
Yes.
but the factory, actually the star that's making these things and spewing it out into the universe. And then, as you're saying, sorry to interrupt, but then the luckiness, we're like winning the lottery when they come together in this way to form.
And so we're basically in this huge rock of a bunch of elements, but that's still not enough. Because where we were located in the planet, we should not have water. That because it should have been melted or evaporated, many eons ago. Yet we have this tremendous amount of water, more than any that we know of in our solar system, except for one moon that has a huge amount that's capped under ice. But our Earth is a liquid medium that had allowed for this process. Where did that come from? And there's a lot of theories. There's something called the Great Tact, where Jupiter and Saturn kind of flip positions. Jupiter spewed all these asteroids in the asteroid belt directly towards the inner planets, where our planet, along with Mars, benefited from. Probably Venus as well at some point. But we got tons of water from there. From this this chance happening that had to occur. And of course, we had a huge big brother in Jupiter.
Or this perfect design. That's the beauty of this conversation. On both sides, the cosmic lottery or the perfect design are both equally miraculous. This is where scientists and spiritual people can agree.
Yes. So, and that's where, again, the science can help us here. If you kind of look at that improbability of that occurrence, and then that was just to set up the situation where we had a planet where life can occur. The conditions of what we know as life as we know it, based on a carbon-based organism, was based on this need and water. And then we can talk about the water pools, the heat that was generated, enough of the ultraviolet rays and creation of the ozone layer that was necessary after the first rendition of life, which is cyanobacteria that basically ate up carbon dioxide and created oxygen for the first time in our planet. And these created the conditions. Again, what are the odds of that happening?
Right.
And then just the random succession of events that needed to occur just to have the plausibility of life to engage and occur, just from these conglomeration of basic rocks and chemistries and elements, is phenomenal. Okay, so if I have that argument or I have a patient that comes to me with that sense of what is my reason, what's my reason for life, if I share that moment with them to understand and comprehend that your existence is something that is a miracle in itself, truly.
Really?
And we didn't even talk about birthing and the evolution of that, and what needs to happen for a birth to happen
Oh
and
my,
a human being to form.
we have to talk about this. I've heard
Yeah.
from many people that some scientist or mathematician tried to do the math, and each of us is actually a 1 in 400 trillion chance.
Yeah.
1 in 400 trillion chance that we
Yeah.
would be us.
Yeah. And I think that's conservative, to be honest with you. And when you, but think of that. You can, that point of fact that our existence is a immense improbability, and yet
Exactly.
we're here, can be argued from a religious standpoint. The religious person would say the reason for that is God doesn't make junk. He created you for a reason, a purpose that you may not understand, but he made it for a reason. If you think about more along the philosophical grounds, the universe wouldn't waste all this time, components, energy, just to create a life that has no meaning. The universe says there's a reason why I did this as
Right.
well. If you think about along the psychological aspect of it, is the appreciation of your core self and understanding that my existence, incredibly improbable as it is the reality of this existence right now. And it is up to me to understand that purpose. But it is a purpose. There's a reason for my existence. Yeah. So yeah, I really truly think that that's one of the true essence of understanding mental health is that appreciation of your self-worth and awareness of your existence as being something that's wonderful. Yeah.
I think that was the perfect moment to say the word self-worth. Um, and even following up after, the idea that God doesn't make junk or the universe doesn't waste. What true philosophers, and I think all the greatest people throughout time have come to this place of realizing the fallacy of these kinds of words, and almost the not just the meaninglessness, but the almost the toxic nature of words like waste or junk
Mhm.
or
Yeah.
worthy, or these are every concept, every belief is actually made up. And we've been given this gift. We are made of stars. We do have this profound biology that we still don't know exactly how one cell, going through the process of going from an embryo to a human. We don't know how each cell knows how to do what it does. We have these ideas, but we
Mhm.
still don't know it. And I've mentioned this one professor that's going to win a Nobel Prize because he's proving through science that each cell is actually conscious, and each cell has intelligence and a blueprint that is beyond what we can see in the DNA. There's so much profound, miraculous shit happening all the time. What I find really interesting is that there's a lot of people who hear this, inherently know this, and they still struggle with self-worth. So I
Mhm.
think a lot of what we're going to be talking about is that process of helping ourselves or someone we love go from feeling low self-worth to feeling this infinite miracle, you know?
Mhm.
And it is through education, but you know how much I love shamanism and spirituality and rituals and practices, because most of the time we can all agree it sucks, but it's usually some traumatic event or a crisis or a death of a loved one, or it takes a huge shakeup for us to go through this process and have these kind of mystical transformative experiences. But I don't think it has to be that way. And that's why I personally love meditation so much, and why I tried to start with this, because I think the more time we spend building a relationship with the different levels of our consciousness, because we have an awareness that's also very childlike and very emotional and sensitive, but we use different words, but we have this like wisest self, this higher self, um, and helping people gain access to that, I think, is the true practice.
That's beautiful, and it's very insightful with that discovery as well. And what I like about that and what we're kind of speaking to is perspective. Because you mentioned it's a shame, but a lot of people do have to experience being in the shithole, being down in the dumps, before they can have that insight. Why does that necessary? Why does it have to get to that point? And my belief is perspective. I think that's what we're talking about here. When you talk about, it's more than saying to your child, why are you complaining about your food? There's kids starving. That's perspective, right? But that's a guilted way of looking at perspective. And that's not what I'm talking about here. It's perspective of your own experience of a life event. Remember, I hearken back to what we talk about, that situations, whether it be successes or failures, don't define us. It's how we react to it, and that's very true to understand the reaction to a horrible event. And we could talk about things that happen to ourselves, that people, talking about abuse and all type of the malicious things that people can do to one another, and the effect that has on other people, on their own perspective of themselves, and how that affects how they view themselves because of those actions. So I always talk about getting the situation, as horrific as it can be and hard to forget, disengage yourself from that situation and look at that emotion. Rape, for example, horrible action that is a physical action, but it's a mental and psychological damage as well, in all those aspects. But it is an event, okay? And that event needs to be disengaged from the emotion that elicits. The emotion that's elicited from a rape event is shame, is guilt. Sometimes, unfortunately, it's the feeling of unworthiness. That's the core that needs to be addressed, not the fact that someone hurts you, which is still important and understandably so, for all the reasons of judicious, reasons. But the more important thing is the impact on you and the emotions that is created from that. For you to grow and become a better person from that horrific event and be stronger from it, needs to be looked at from the emotion side and disengage the situation. Because there will be times when other situations similar to a rape event, whether it be a location or an anniversary date or the same person that you might be seeing, these are triggers that elicit a situation, but it doesn't address the emotion. And that's the problem with PTSD and a lot of depression and anxiety issues, is this anxiety towards the situation that reminds them of an event that triggers the emotion, when that's not necessary. Disengage from that situation. Look at the true emotion. Let's talk about why you're feeling worthless. You know what? It doesn't matter what that person did to you. You're still the same person internally. That hasn't changed. And that shouldn't be the reason why you act a certain way. Go back to the core emotion of why you're feeling this way and address those things. And that's the approach that I think is very noteworthy when we talk about self-worth and understanding what we're talking about here, which is faith, but understanding why faith is important, to understand that I have value because there's scientific evidence that proves that I have value. And it doesn't matter what other people do or say to me. I know my own self-worth. And that's a key component in getting through a lot of mental health issues, is understanding that crucial point. So yeah. And that's, again, very hard to do. And we talk about, a perspective. I like saying that this one story, that if you had someone that grew up on the base of a mountain and saw the same mountain the rest of their life, and then you had someone else that flew over that mountain on a plane, their perspectives would be totally different. And the person in the plane was like, oh, it's like every other mountain. But the one from below would see that same mountain as something beautiful, something that he grew up with and attached to. Same mountain, different perspective, but depending on your viewpoint, its appreciation is different. And I think that's why when people go through something horrific as as a rape event or a murder witness or something along those lines, it's that perspective of knowing what that emotion is and how I feel that way, and actually relishing it. And that's odd to say because I'm not telling people to be masochists here, but I am telling them to appreciate as shitty as I feel right now. I got to remember this. I got to remember this emotion and uh, take ownership of this feeling. Why is that important? Because you know what? When I get up and I'm in a higher level and I am better at some stage in the future, I have that perspective now from here where I was below. I remember how I felt here. I'm not repressing it. I'm not denying it. I'm not trying to hide it. I'm taking ownership of that emotion at that lowest point because that's the perspective you need when you rise above it and you can see above, just like the guru that's on the top of the peak, seeing the chaos below, but he is steady and neutral because he's aware of his own self-worth and understands that the commotion below doesn't matter. I'm still centered and true to myself. And that's the perspective that you need to have to get over any situation, good, bad, uh, and those words that you talk about. Why is a situation good or bad? It's a situation. It's an event. It has no emotion. We ascribe those values to situations when it's not necessary. It's our understanding of truth that's necessary to really get to the true answer, not the situation. And that's what we need to disengage as a society and for mental health issues in general. Um, but yeah, I love talking about it, obviously, and it's very important to me. But to understand what we're talking about when it comes to faith, but also physio mental health, is that awareness of self-worth and understanding what that truly means.
Yeah, wow. It's so, of course you're going to bring to this place because it's so easy to talk about and it's so fun to talk about. Um, whew.
Yeah.
Yeah, I want to, say a few words to all the people that have been molested or raped or witnessed murder. I don't know if you've experienced any of these things, but it's so easy to talk about. And this again, this is why I lean so much on the experiential side, on practices and techniques that are beyond talk therapy. They're beyond words because there's a lot of people. I've worked with people that have been molested and raped, people that have witnessed murder, people that have committed murder. Especially in war. Um, and I'll share again. My first memory as a child was watching my mother get raped at gunpoint in front of me, and that really shaped my life. Just like my mother being raped, shaped hers, and my son's mother was raped, and these are such powerful things to go through. And like you is without belittling anything, I like to remind people, because we've all experienced this. We've all had this moment where we realize that the thing that was so hard for us to go through in our life at that time, and it's almost the hardest for humans that have been through this stuff, but we can all remember a time where something was really, really painful, and then a time where we were like, oh, that I'm actually grateful for that experience because it made me who I am. And as crazy as it sounds, my mother, my son's mother, the people that I know that have been molested, even myself with this difficult memory from my childhood, I'm grateful. Uh, and it can be hard to understand. And speaking of this, when we're speaking to somebody who hasn't gotten there yet, it almost it almost it upsets them, but it almost makes them feel insulted because they're thinking to themselves, well, you don't know what I've been through. I've tried everything. I've read every book. Even people on my side, I've taken every psychedelic. I've worked with shamans. But you still can't understand. And that's why I am forming this library of practices and techniques, because even some of the simple ones, like staring into your own eyes in the mirror, or taking a shower where we consciously pause and hug ourselves and slowly touch ourselves the way that we would touch our children. uh countless practices can help us get to a point where we find ourselves loving ourselves more, and then we're able to have these breakthroughs of, because really all we're talking about when we talk about perspective, we're actually talking about perspective shift. We're talking about belief, new beliefs or reprogramming beliefs. And no matter how it happens, it's not easy. Forming a new habit or learning how to ride a bike or doing something new, or shifting our actually shifting our perspective of reality because we've learned something new. It takes work.
Yeah,
I
it
just
does.
my heart goes out to everyone. I just want everyone to you know be experiment with the idea that this difficult thing actually has made you the best possible version of yourself. And it's hard, but
Yeah,
yeah.
it is hard, and that's and it is something I share with you. I mean, there's no length of compassion and want to help, more so than dealing with children as I have that have experienced those things. And working in an emergency room, oftentimes I would see the same individuals coming in over and over again.
Whew.
And one of the things that I think is universal in human nature when bad things happen to an individual is anger, and it is that anger that spews and causes a lot of the concerns that happen as a person develops over time. Especially in a child that experiences something horrific, the anger that's built up from that, and the actions that move them to act certain ways is tragic in itself. But if you take away, again, focus on where that anger is coming from, it's coming from insecurity. It is coming from the guilt that I wasn't strong enough to fight this off. It's the guilt
Right.
there. It's that perception of feeling inadequate, that I'm not good enough. Now that I'm violated, I'm not good for anybody.
Right.
I'll never be clean. These are really the core aspects that need to be identified. And as you said, it's a mirror reflecting that. Do you really think that you're not strong enough? Look at you. Look at the strong person that you're developing and coming from. You're not the 5-year-old little boy anymore. You are a 18 or 24-year-old grown man. Okay. You are strong. You do have security. You can provide for your family now and protect them, or help them be strong enough to protect themselves from injuries like what you went through. And if you really understand and commit yourself to understanding the reasons for that welled up emotion of anger or hatred, or I don't even know why I'm mad anymore kind of thought process that people have going through this, and really figure out, why am I so angry? What is it? Well, I'm frustrated at myself because I wasn't strong enough, or I wasn't capable. But that was at that time. You can be that version of yourself that is stronger, that is beautiful, and someone that you can offer and share to others in a beautiful way, that can be appreciated by someone that sees the beauty in you. And that's, again, that reflective mirror that's necessary that we talk about, is that discovery of your self-worth, and,
Okay.
and your worthiness. Yeah.
I see countless stories on YouTube and Instagram of men and women that are talking about how they have evolved and who they have become after being molested or raped, and even on the murder side, people who have gone through the PTSD of war and have become better versions of themselves and gotten to a point where they're now grateful for that. And what I'm realizing as we're speaking, you can't actually give someone faith, not with words. I think we can with experiences. That's where I'm excited to talk more about shamanism and ancient practices. But hope and faith are completely different. But I think to go from hopelessness to faith, you actually have to go from hopelessness to hope, then to
Yeah.
faith.
Okay. Yeah.
And I do want everyone that if anyone hears this and they're struggling or they're crying or they're mad or they want to, there's so many ways that people can react negatively to this kind of a conversation, but I I want to give people hope that they can get to that place where suddenly they realize that they are beautiful and that event was exactly what they needed to become who they are, and that it's part of why they're beautiful. And if you can't hear those words and feel that, then I want to give people hope that it's possible, because it is. And that's why I want to start interviewing some of these rape victims and people that have witnessed murder or even committed murder on the war field. Yeah, it's just getting me all worked up, because I feel, I mean, I was a young boy that wanted to kill all the bad men on the planet, wanted to rid the world of evil men. And going through everything I've gone through with non-duality and with understanding the reality that exists beyond these polarizing words of good and evil and right and wrong, it to me is heaven. You know, the what we seek is actually here, and it's always been here, and it's a kind of bliss and joy and peace and passion and happiness and confidence that we can't even dream of right now. And I even know for myself, as far as I've come, I have an infinite well of passion and joy and peace and bliss that is waiting for me as I continue doing this work. And that's where my faith has grown, because I've experienced it over and over. But I did have to have hope, and I did have to have some friends that handed me those little nuggets of hope.
That's beautiful. And again, I know this is difficult to share, and I appreciate you allowing yourself to open and share these thoughts with others that you know you can help. Um, and I think, well, I know when we're discussing faith health, there's stages with it, and hope is a great description. And I don't want to discount hope versus faith all the time, but hope is that wish that things will improve. And part of that, I believe, is the awareness of your self-worth. And that's what we're talking about initially. So I think part of discovery with faith health is awareness of your uniqueness and your implausibility of existence, and the understanding that you have self-worth. So it starts with awareness. And then the second aspect of that is appreciation of the experiences that you have in life that you will grow and become a better person from. It's the appreciation of the good and the bad. Whether we put names to describe situation, it's unnecessary. It's a situation, it's an event. Every moment of my life is an experience. It's
Hey,
good or bad.
This is what the Rastafari say, man. There
Yeah,
is no problems, there's no mistakes, there's only
yeah,
situations.
yeah. And it's also that appreciation of the moment and understanding that good or bad, I'm going to envelop this experience because that's going to make me a better person, growing from one day to the next, learning, experiencing, laughing, crying. You know, Jim Valvano had that momentous speech, you know, months before he died, in that event. You know, a coach that won the national championship, you know, he had acclaims, but he was dying of cancer months before. But he told a life of meaning, and I'm paraphrasing, said, if you cry, if you laugh, if you're moved to tears, then that's a great day. That's worth living. And he knew that he had moments to live, and he wanted to share that with others and make them understand that it's the moments that matter. Doesn't matter if they're good or bad, brother. Doesn't matter. Learn from it and understand that you are a human that has this ability to have this myriad of different emotions, a spectrum, and how beautiful that is, and how unique it is, and how you learn from that, grow from it. And then when we talk about finding a purpose from that, is the legacy that you will in turn provide to others. And that's where you could answer that question. Why am I here? What's the meaning of my life? You will have that answer with the purpose that you'll discover. And
Well,
that's the beauty of this.
I'm hearing you use, when you use the word relish a while ago, I it it felt, the word felt a little off to me. And then as you're speaking now, and I'm thinking about all the greats on all sides of these fences, there's a, I mean, even Michael Jordan, you know, is a basketball Eckhart Tolle, because he talks about the importance of being in the present moment, being fully present with each experience. And there is a relishing in this experience. If whether we think we know what this is or not, we are lucky beyond belief, and we can actually enjoy every step of this way. Because the argument on the many of the scientists side is that if there was a God, why would he have created all the suffering? And the
Mhm.
argument on the spiritualist side is that it's all perfect and it's all designed for our perfect evolution. But when we let go of these words of, you know, perfect or suffering, whatever this is happening right now. Whatever happened a moment ago is no longer happening, and whatever's going to happen, you know, tomorrow or, you know, an hour from now, we can think about as much as we want, but that just takes us out of the beauty of this moment, relishing in this human experience, the whole shebang of emotions and senses and fears and doubts and insecurities, and gaining an ability to actually enjoy the process is, I think, why I'm so excited about self-realization, and why I've landed on calling myself a self-realization facilitator. And I've used so many words, I've been called so many things, good and bad, but experiencing that more presence
Mhm.
is a gift, man. It really is.
Yeah. 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 I think of a lot of people that speak to that point about experience in the moment. And one particular person that I read a quote on was Brandon Lee, who's the son of Bruce Lee. And uh, he was obviously a child of a famous actor, martial arts. I'm Asian, so I grew up with Bruce Lee. I identified readily with him, and I speak about it in the book and the reasons why. But even more personally, watching the personal tragedy of a young man that lost his father at a very young age, but knew his legend and his legacy and how he had to compare himself and live up to it. There's so many wrong things that could have happened to this young man. But he pursued a career. He became a movie actor, filmed his last movie, The Crow. And part of that was a really thoughtful interview talking about life and experience. And he's talked about and I'm paraphrasing, but he talked about watching the moon rise and you know seeing that it's lovely and beautiful. But if you really consider how we sometimes look at it and say, oh, full moon tonight, great, and not really understand the impact of that moment that you're seeing at a beautiful spectacle that is so rare and not being able to appreciate that moment and being aware of it. But he talks about it's like, how many times are we going to see a full moon in our lifetime? Yet we, 26, 32, no, who knows? But we still have that mentality thinking that it's this inexhaustible well that of experiences that we'll experience, but it's not. And what really resonated with me is understanding that here's a man at 28 years old that understood the uniqueness of his existence and understood and appreciated moments like that for what they are, because they're fleeting and they may not come again. So be aware of the moment, be aware of your surroundings, aware of the beauty that surrounds you all the time.
This
Um,
is why
and-
this is why crisis is the great reprogrammer, because when we confront the deepest
yes.
crisis, realizing we're going to die, and we truly sit with that long enough, that's where all the breakthroughs and revelations, that's where it all comes from. All the gratitude, all the joy comes from realizing we're going to die.
Yeah. Yeah. And then I say this with medicine as well. It's like a great physician is one that imparts on their patients the understanding that death comes to us all.
Exactly.
Inevitably, death comes to us all. A good physician will be able to convey that to their patient and allow them to understand that it'll be okay. Death comes to us all, but it'll be all right. And let me show you why it'll be all right. And your
Mm,
practices and your experiences and how you conduct your life goes with that understanding that I'm going to die, but I can experience every moment of my life until I die as a unique moment in itself that needs to be understood and appreciated for what it is, good or bad, and live your life accordingly with that. I think is important. And again, we talk about faith, and it's amazing, how our discussions came from, dark energy and dark matter, the uniqueness of life, and your perspective. But this is what faith is all about: is that comprehension of awareness and understanding of this beautiful universe that surrounds us, and how we can be a part of it. And I think taking it back to that thought is important when we talk about bringing in this physical mental health and circadian rhythm. Part of that, I believe, is how you can practice this in your daily routine. How does faith health get incorporated into your normal daily routine? Part of that, again, is understanding your uniqueness, but also understand that there is a circadian rhythm that you can tap into each morning as well. When you see the sunrise, when you take in the need for that, all that stuff we talk about with sleep health and nutrient health, and also exercise health, of how the energy from the sun allows for that rhythmic opportunity for your mind to engage. So we're already engaged with the sun every day. So along with that, it should be that point, as you noted, of meditation, understanding that I am connected, that I am, like it or not, the moment I see that sun, and understand that every species of animal and plant life of any living source is awakening to that sunrise as you are. And how can you not say and understand that I am connected with the universe? If that's not an idea and concept of faith, then I don't know, how much more powerful a message you need to hear in comprehending that little nugget of truth.
Often this is one of the first realizations that come through meditation, and that's why I'm so passionate about helping people find these different levels of meditation and experiences. And even in Buddhism and Hinduism, and even almost all cultures actually have a practice of, and even honestly prayer, and philosophers do it. Maybe they would call it contemplation, but there's different ways of watching the mind. And when we watch it enough and in the right ways, we it's not that we gain more control over it. We gain a distancing and a separation from it that allows our willpower and our curiosity, and even our confidence and our potential being greater than we think it is. These things begin to develop through just the process of watching our thoughts. And there's so many different kinds of meditations. People will preach guided meditations with sound, walking meditations, even meditations where you are trying to quiet the mind. But there's a school that we all go through, whether we learn from one person or from many people, because there are levels, there are aha moments that give us more strength and more courage. And also for me in my life, it allows me to have deeper relationships with the people that I love.
Yes.
I think meditation is one of the most important things on this path and in this process.
I 100% agree, 110% if I could even do that much. But again, I think we're going back to those core ideas of awareness and appreciation. And whether it's called meditation, other people, what's like, I can't meditate. Well, it's not necessarily, maybe that's the wrong word to use, but it's basically having that mindfulness of clarity. Just giving yourself a moment. Like I said, you can have a coffee, watch the sunrise, get your infrared, and get this energy from the sun, and being in the moment of self-contemplation, where you, in the morning, you can reaffirm those reasons. Okay, what is my passion? What am I about today? And what is my purpose? Get those fundamental thoughts in your mind of re-identify your true core self, identify your passion, you know, be resolute in your purpose and understand that. Start your day that way. And then as the day comes on, is that constant appreciation of others, being in tune with the moment, you know, saying hello to the barista that's making your coffee, or to the cafeteria clerk. Find out what their name is. You know, I'm talking about, and my kids growing up, they would clown on me a lot of times, like, you know, why do you make a point of knowing everyone, you know, the gas clerk, or the post lady. It's like wow, these are connections, you know, and being again aware with the moment and understanding that yeah, you know, they're doing me a service and I'm paying them for it, but they're a person, you know, a connection that we make as we develop and grow. So what I'm talking about is the clarity of mind in the beginning, being aware of the moment as the day progresses, instill those relationships and be respectful to it, but understand that you get as much out of it as they will from that interaction too. Just be aware of that moment. And then in the end of the day, the other moment of clarity is understanding and appreciate the day, you know, how it started, you know, who I met that day. And also understand conflict. Because remember, situations are good, bad, you know, we put those monikers on it, but they're situations. But conflict can be considered bad, but it's just something that wasn't resolved. Review those, understand those understandings of why there's conflict. You know, why was there an argument there? Why didn't we agree at that point? Whether it be your spouse or a coworker or your child, you know, understand those conflicts, because these are conflicts that you ruminate and internalize so much. And then if you try to go to sleep, you can't sleep, and all these issues. And then that's anxiety and depression that leads from it. Each day, you should have that Rolodex in your mind of reviewing the day and thinking about your connections, appreciate them, understand the conflict, and find a common ground to resolve it. That's another discussion about conflict resolution. Has a lot to do with relationships, which I would love to talk about later in another podcast. But in essence, that's how faith health can help you during the course of the day. Yes, it's meditations for those that ascribe to it, and I 100% ask people to try to engage in that form. But others that don't have that ability or that time sometimes to allow for that, I say you can find time. And we're talking about just a moment of watching the sunrise. You're doing it anyway. Why not just take a moment for yourself and just put everything aside? You know, you don't have to rush, you know, to get anything done, but just give yourself 5-10 minutes, which I recommend anyway, just to get some good infrared, and have that moment also to contemplate, you know, read the Dharma, read the Bible, or scripture, or a line of poetry, something for yourself to re-identify your passion and your purpose. But do that for yourself. And then as the course of the day, awareness and appreciation. And then towards the end of the day, more of conflict resolution, review of the day. And again, going back to appreciation of the moment of your existence. And then
Right.
that's a great way to end of the day, isn't it? I mean, I just
Oh, I
really
think this,
understand where this can happen and help people.
and this, I think this is where most of us end up, especially if we've been, you know, personal development or, you know, human potential junkies for a long time. We find ourselves so grateful for our routines and our practices that we want to share them with people. But for all those who can't, or who feel like they can't,
Yeah.
who feel like they can't meditate, or feel like
Yeah.
there is no way to get out of these ruts, or they know that they should be doing a gratitude journal, but they've tried and it didn't help. This is for those people. I also, because I've been there and I can relate, and I've seen so many people heal themselves and go through these transformations. I want to give people hope that there are practices that our ancestors have come up with. There are countless practices, internal practices, external practices, practices with plant medicines, practices without, even with modern, you know, chemistry and molecules. And there is something that can help you find that motivation or courage or desire even, to do these things. and even, I mean, and I harp on meditation, but even like what you were describing, there's kind of a study, where we can read things. There's a contemplation where we can really contemplate. We can even witness beauty. Or listen to beautiful music, or listen to a guided meditation. I want to put all those ways into one bucket. Um, and then there's also a kind of meditation that I think truly leads to self-realization. And even if you only have 5 minutes, sitting for 5 minutes with your eyes half closed, not all the way closed, because when they're all the way closed, we kind of fantasize. When they're all the way open, we're kind of distracted by what we're seeing. But when our eyes are kind of half closed and we let things
Nice.
blur, we can
Yes.
sit in this state with things, kind of dissolving from our reality, and from our internal reality and our external reality, and just watch the thoughts. And this is where Zen meditation, Zen Buddhism, has become so sweet. But I mean, Buddha talked about this, Hindus talked about this. It's a kind of meditation where you're just sitting and watching your thoughts. And I like to
Yeah.
talk about what unfolds in that process and try and help guide people towards these experiences. But just doing that, even for 90 seconds, if you did that for 90 seconds once a day, your life will quickly change.
100% again agree with you on that. And uh, meditation, like I said, it conjures up a lot of ideas for a lot of people of what that means. And you're right. I mean, it is just that simple component of contemplation, whether it be through different practices, but just as long as you find that way, and I guess that's what we're talking about. It's individual to your experiences and your culture and your work environment. I get that, and there's challenges to all that. But what I'm saying again, with everything we talk about with physio mental health and biosynchronicity, is that it truly is that simple. When you just find the time to do these simple practices, that we implore you to appreciate and understand how impactful it can be if you make it part of your routine. And,
Exactly.
and and routine may not be a powerful word to describe it. It's not a routine; it's a way of living.
It's
Right, and it is a matter of incorporating in how you approach life every day, every moment, and that's
exactly.
where we speak to with faith health. And I'm glad you brought up psychedelics and cannabis and these other routes, because that is fundamentally what this clinic and what our approach is. It's Physio Mental Health Research Center. What is the research? Well, it's research into this very question of faith, of understanding how mental health impacts the physical. And that's why, with all the viewers that are watching this podcast and others that we health seekers out there that are trying to find a better way of living their life, this is an opportunity where you can learn more about yourself, but also being able to contribute to others that are experiencing the same problems and issues that you are. You help yourself, but you help others. And you help us as a community, as a clinic, understand this whole question of faith and really understanding how it is medicine, which I profess. Faith is medicine. And if I have to shout it from the hilltops, I will. And it's something that can be proven in research, but more importantly, you can prove it within your own self. You can find that truth within your own self and understand that, yeah, if I have faith and I actually put that value and incorporate it in my life, it is the medicine and that will make my life better. There's a great line in a movie, and I'm a great movie buff. I won't tell you the movie because it will date me and it will almost embarrass me. But there's a line in the movie that says when he's looking at the woman that he's been trying to pursue in the whole movie, and he looks at her and says, "You're everything I never knew I always wanted.
Mhm.
You're everything I never knew I always wanted." And it always kind of stuck with me. It's like, wow. That's a great line. I can't wait to use that on a woman that I care for one day, and I have. But what's interesting to me is that you can look at it in a different way and think about it as faith. Once you really discover your self-worth and not a love of someone else, but philatia, which is what we talk about, the Greek description of self-love. When you have philatia, then that line in a movie can actually be turned into saying to yourself, I always knew I always needed, and if you understand that and understand that you are everything you always needed, you never knew. And you just have to comprehend and appreciate that moment. And that's the
Yeah.
beauty of it.
This is why I like spiritual music. And I've even gone through it now with pop songs and lines from movies. But
Yeah.
when you hear love songs, or when you hear love songs as either God singing them to you or you singing them to yourself, they become extremely enlightening. And there's literally people that have had awakenings just driving on the freeway listening to a pop song. I've been one of them. But the experience of that is so beautiful and is so sweet. uh Man, and this is again why I'm excited to talk about faith, psychedelics, and science. I
Yeah.
mean, our bodies are a pharmacy that are actually making psychedelics and medicines within itself all the time. And this
Mhm.
is why I'm so excited about both sides, practices that involve molecules and practice external molecules, and practices that involve endogenous molecules. It's we're still talking about the same thing, and I think now I'm even more excited to put together all the research and the studies that I've come across over the years that show this neurological connection between awakening, psychedelics, mystical experience, um, and belief programming. I mean,
Yeah.
this is the fun stuff, man.
Yeah. And that's why this research, I think, is important, because it is a type of, a field of medicine that's expanding in the last few decades, with cannabis being the first, but now psilocybin being prominent now, and other psychedelics that have been researched and studied in the past. What we're talking about is the ability to be self-aware and appreciate. I think, again, I keep on going back to those two words, but I believe that psychedelics and these other methods are facilitators to get to that level.
Exactly.
When you talk about others that have that difficulty, that aren't born as a Buddha, and can be self-aware from that moment. Unfortunately, we're not all that way. We all have that capacity to be Buddhas, but the understanding that you have to get there may be difficult, and sometimes psychedelics can be that avenue. And that's why I'm excited about conducting research and actually looking at the science behind it and seeing how it can be helpful, and to what
Mm.
degree, and how, what measures can be used to augment or maximize its true benefit. And
Mm.
and again, with health seekers out there that want to be part of our studies and want to learn more, please look at our sites to see how you can be involved and be part of this community that I feel so strongly about, and feel as though we can provide a true legacy and understand a true purpose for your own life, and how that can benefit so many others as well. So be part of that, and I enjoy to hear from all our listeners' experiences. And this is how we learn, and this is how we learn and grow, is sharing these experiences and thoughts and ideas with each other, and growing and learning from each other. And that's the beauty of this moment that we're sharing and understanding from each other, and hopefully what we can share from our viewers. So,
And
so again, in closing, I do want to just comment on the beauty of our friendship, and understanding this moment, and also showing others how these experiences can benefit not only yourself but others, and provide what a lasting legacy would be for you, and identifying your purpose. And I enjoyed this moment with you, and I look forward to sharing these future moments with you and others regarding all this. So again, thank you so much, Justin. I really appreciate and love you.
I love you so much, bro. And I think this is truly what I long to share with people is the hope and then the faith that you can have intimate, loving relationships with so many more people than you believe right now, even than I believe. And I think it's sad that so many of us live a life where we joke about how we only have a couple of close friends, and that's something that we should be grateful for. And it's true, we should, but we can actually have intimate relationships with everyone in our lives. And it might sound totally hippie and cliche, but I think we're proof of that, you know?
Yeah, very much so. So, yep, rise up every morning with the sun and enjoy the moment with yourself, and start your day with identifying your passion and striving out with that purpose. And that's what I profess and believe and share with others, and hopefully we'll expand on this knowledge with our next podcast as well. But thank you so much for your time, and I appreciate you greatly, my friend. Thank you so much, brother.
Love you.